Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Releasing Your Inner Dragon. Today, we're picking up where we left off and continuing with plotting Magic Falls. We are hoping to hit the end of Act 2 at the least, and then we will leave Act 3 as a mystery. Okay.
Except for the few spoilers that we've already dropped throughout.
If you go back and look, you'll find them. But the details.
But a lot has changed.
So I am Marie Mullaney. I am a fantasy author and YouTuber with a world building channel called Just in Time Worlds. And with me today, as always, is my co-host.
I am Max Alexander Drake, or Drake as everyone calls me. I'm an award-winning novelist, teach writing all over the world. Guess I should probably pimp myself more. DrakeU.com is where you can find a bunch of my teaching if you want to become a better writer. I've got tons of books on the subject. I write video games and movies and stage plays and TV and comics and tabletop games and do a podcast. So, yes.
And before we get into the topic, please do hit the like button, subscribe button, share it with your friends, put it in your favorites, do all of those things that lets the algorithm know that you're getting value from this. That way, the algorithm knows who else to show this content to. Okay. And with that, let me share my screen and we can get going. So last time we'd finished up to Act 1 and Act 2. If you haven't seen that episode yet, maybe go back and watch that. And now we are going to hit Act 3. So
No, second half of Act 2.
So we're going to hit the second half of Act 2. So in the first half of Act 2, our mid-act climax is they find the noddy, which they've been sent to find, but the locals are already there, have extracted the canister, and either Mota is with our heroes or Mota is directing the action down at the noddy. One of these two things. And I remember why we took Mota out of being with our heroes, because it worked better for us to have him as the leader in the village. But the only way he could be the leader in the village is if he's directing the action at the noddy. It doesn't make sense for him to stay with our heroes.
Right.
Yeah. So I think that was our reasoning, that he would make a better villain over there than a tension device over here.
Right. Yeah, I remember all that. I'm still hoping that we can stumble upon a solution that gives us both. That I was thinking about it last. So for those that listened to the last podcast, we kind of fibbed to you. We ended up not recording the next one back to back, and then so it's actually a few days later in real world from when we recorded the last episode. But so the last couple of days I've been thinking about this, and I think it's just expanding. I think the secret is going to be expanding Mota's character, but still keeping him as a non-POV character, which means we have to do it in different ways. And there's a couple of them. First, we have the scene where Lyron is eavesdropping on him. So that gives us an opportunity to expand his character without him being a narrative character. And the second time is we can actually build the relationship between Mota and Burry in the Tinker's room, where they have a history that, like, she knows about him. She's had run-ins with him before. She at least knows whatever. So in other words, expanding thinking. So coming at it from the angle of, I'm a cultist. I believe this voice that I hear is God, and it's telling me that I must bring the humans to the planet to purify them, to make them whole. And so therefore, if I am this leader of at least this small sect, obviously we're going to expand upon it, because as the novels go on, the big bad of this book isn't the big bad of the whole book. Or of the whole trilogy. So if he is just this one little sect leader, this little pod leader, whatever, he's living a dual life. he's up in the city as a civilian, working for his goals, probably preaching. I think there's probably a much more known message of a group of people who are actively activists of you people that are purebloods or half, mutated. What's it called?
Half adapted.
Adapted. Don't understand. You're missing it. We have to become fully adapted or we're not going to survive on this planet. Or actually now we've changed a little bit because I really like the whole that it's Earth, not really, but they think it's Earth. So to reclaim the ancestral home, we need to become adapted. Our ancestors ruined the planet, sent us to the skies, but now we can go back. You just have to become adapted. Moda is a more vocal character. And so Burry knows him, but Burry, yes, he's that weird radical dude that's preaching this religion, but he's not
dangerous.
Bad. Right. He's not evil. He's not just going to kill people.
What if because Mota is fully adapted, he obviously can't get like the best jobs or anything like that, right? And especially because of his views. So what if he's become, since Burry had to drop her prices, he and some of the other fully adapted have become customers of hers?
Okay, I like that a lot. It does mean that I would want Moda to be in her opening scene.
I was having the same thought.
But I don't want to.
But he doesn't have to be in her opening scene. Because we start here in the bakery in scene 5, where she's locking Teacup up. What if we meet Mota here?
I feel it's too close to the Tinker encounter, so it's going to feel convenient.
Okay.
Like, oh, I just saw you at my shop, and now I'm going to the Tinker place, and oh, look, you're here too. That's why I was like, in the opening scene.
But in the opening scene, it's going to dilute. Unless we do it as part of the setup. Like he comes in and buys some things, and then she has the whole accounting scene.
Right.
So he looks like the throwaway first customer of the day.
Right. That's what I was saying. That's exactly where I was going to.
Yeah.
We can do something to where it's just this innocuous. Now, I'd like to have, when he leaves, I would like to have her turn to Teacup and say something like, that guy gives me the creeps, or something like that. Or I hate that we're so desperate for money that we have to deal with people like that, or something to that effect. Something that sets up that he's a creepy dude, not evil, not going to kill people, just creepy. And then she's interrupted by the conflict of the guy coming in. The bridesmaid mother puked for 3 days after this day, whatever.
Yep.
Whatever it's going to be.
And then in our here 7. In our in wait, first and 4, we need to emphasize.
Oh, yes.
Mota, religion, stance, and the view that everyone will be better once they are fully adapted on the planet, reclaiming ancestral lands. Yeah.
Yes. So this sets us up in Act 1 that one of the characters sees him as maybe creepy, but still just another person. Whereas Laron sees him as a villain.
Yes.
And then I think that, again, we have to tone down. And then, in 7, it just expands a little bit.
Yeah.
Because of the fact they have a relationship. And they can even talk about it. That's another spot, is they can talk about it after he leaves.
Yeah.
Because that's an opportunity to talk about Moda with the Tinker. And again, if you listen at home, this is literally how I work when it comes to plotting. It's a lot of, oh, this idea brings that, and oh, look at this. And so, just showing you how much, especially if you listen to all these podcast ones, this story is way different than the original idea of, hey, what about X? And now we're like, this story has so much meat. I'm so excited and so proud of what we've done here. Cannot wait to see the final version. It's gonna be so much fun.
So Moda then speaks. Then she speaks about the Tinker to Mota, and that's all we really need to change there.
Yeah.
Okay. Now here,
and I'd actually put one more note.
Yeah.
In the last scene of Act 1, just make sure that she makes eye contact with Moda. Make sure he's in the scene. Not actually, he's with his group. All the groups are here and they're all very separate from each other. And they're all afraid of the mercenaries. But just make sure that Moda is in that scene. That's really all it is. They don't actually have to ever have any actual physical contact.
I have one question about letting Mota go through. Everybody sees this explosion. Buri knows what that explosion looks like. How does she not make the link?
Because she doesn't know that Moda got the bomb.
She does, though.
Oh, she does.
Because, well, she knows it's here.
You're right. No, you're right. You're right. All right. So one way, there is a solution to that. So in Laron's spying scene is where the bomb is discussed of what it looks like.
That's on the nose.
Well, the scene that popped in my head was something like, and the coolest thing about this bomb, when it blows up, it does this, iconic look, and that's so poetic or whatever, I feel like maybe they would talk about that, of how cool it's going to look. I wish I could be there.
How about we leave this as is, and how about Buri makes that connection and she confronts Mota with it in this scene where they pick him up, and she's like, did you blow up those mercs? And Mota spins some story, and
the story is, yeah, they would have killed you.
Yeah, they had a plan to kill you.
Well, the mercs, I mean, everyone is terrified of the mercs. Yeah. He's like, yeah, I did. It's the only way us scrubs can survive this. Like, we have to. There were 3 merc teams that were all going to kill us if they ever got in touch with. I mean, they already killed my whole team. So yeah, I'm not at all. We're at war with them. You might not think that we're at war with the 1%, but we're at war with the 1%. They're going to kill us. So that makes him morally bankrupt as far as what his deed, but he does justify. And I can see Buri going, I disagree with the ends justifying the means on that one, but I mean, you do have kind of a point. We've just, like, from her perspective, she's just seen the mercs take out a whole team. They had to scramble to get out of the way of the mercs. Like, clearly the mercs are not your friend here. Right. So while she might find his actions objectionable, like, it is one of those things where you can go, fuck, he's such a creepy dude, I can just leave it alone. Right. Yeah. I think that's our answer. Yeah. Because if it's just the 2 of them, I feel like that's a believable encounter to have her go, fine, I'm stuck with you anyway, and I'm going to die without some, help. We each have to help each other, or we're all going to die. And now it's just the two of us, and so our chances of survival are even less, but still whatever. So I think that's a believable, yes, we're going to, I'll hang out with you in this environment. Like,
yes, in this
I wouldn't
environment.
hang out with you at a bar,
Yes.
At home in a social setting, but I'm not going to show up at your house and play board games with you.
Yeah.
But down here on planet Death, I don't like that you murdered a bunch of mercenaries, but you're right. They are very dangerous, and they probably would have killed me had they gotten the chance. So
I feel like Buri's team leader should be alive here, because I feel like he needs to die in the radiation storm.
Okay.
But even still, just like, it's easy to convince two people, especially two people who've just been like, who've had a bad encounter with these guys and all that.
Right.
Yeah. So yeah, I like that. Okay. I like that. I also like that because it brings into sharp focus Moto justifying himself, the bad guy aspect and so on.
Uh-huh.
Okay. So now here,
and the cool thing is the readers. So there's sometimes where I like to hide things from the readers and let them learn when the characters learn. But the beautiful thing about having multiple POVs, which is one of the reasons why almost everything I write is multiple POVs, is it does also give you the opportunity to have one character learn something, therefore the reader learns it, and the other character is ignorant to it, therefore the reader has to deal with the, oh crap, I know you're wrong. So this is going to end badly for you. And so it's the tension for the reader of, how is this going to actually come out? And so I think this saves Moda and allows him to be in the bunker.
Okay, so he's got the information. Okay, so we've got the one. Okay, so we follow the green path. All right. So here, Lyron, they go into the building. Or Lyron goes into the building, meets Teacup. So here it's Buri and Mota stumbling in, and they follow him. Now, Mota's wearing this hood, right?
Oh, wait. Let's back up. I don't think that the team leader needs to die in the radiation storm there. That is already big enough.
Mm-hmm.
What I actually think is we went too soft in Laron's story. So right now we have the mercenary captain going, I'm not going in there, screw you. I actually think the scene 5, the meat there is going to be the radiation storm, and Laron and the mercenary captain dealing with it, and the mercenary captain dying, and Laron then going, oh shit, I'm going to die too. I'm, now we'll have already brought up the bunkers. Somewhere after they get on the planet, they're going to be passing by one in either Buri's scene or Laron's scene. And obviously it works better in Laron's, but if it doesn't happen in Laron's, it's not a big deal.
They do here in scene 3. We've got it here in scene 3. They pass the buildings in one of our Laron's scenes.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. Yeah. That's where we set up, why don't we make camp in there? Because those things, it's death inside, and we're done with that. And then when we get here, the radiation storm is hit, and this is where we show the danger of the radiation storm. We've already shown enough danger with Buri's character. This is where Laron needs to deal with that and end up being the sole survivor.
Okay, so do we end Buri's scene with like, my team got information, and then the radiation passes, like, and he does this whole thing, and then we have this storm explode here, or what?
We still need to figure that out. We need to come up with I'm still not happy with that, and I don't know if we need it.
Okay. Look, we don't even need to show Moto calling the storm.
Well, I don't even know if it needs to. It could also just be the storms happen.
Yeah.
Like, that's what I'm saying. I don't even know if we need Moto to be a part of the storm. It can just hit.
Yeah. Okay, so me and my team discovered a way, and then the mercs killed us, but he claims he can lead them on another route. And
right.
we leave it there.
Right.
He leads them away. And obviously now the reader's like, oh man, they're gonna die, they're gonna this, they're gonna that, the other thing, etc., etc.
Right.
And I'm just going to make this black to indicate that it's gone, without being gone, in case we want to come back to it.
Right.
And then
in this one, they're trudging along after the Moda encounter.
Yeah.
And they run into a storm just breaks out. Now on scene 4, we do need to plant that where, maybe Moda says something about, look, trust me or not, there's a storm coming. You can see it over there. We've got to get going, whether you trust me or not. And then he just goes. And I think that's where maybe her and the captain look at, or her and her team leader look at each other, and they're like, we don't really have a choice. And so then they go after him. And then that plants that the storm is coming. And then scene 5 is where we actually deal with the storm.
Yeah.
And it almost kills Laron, and he barely escapes. And at the end of it, he's like arguing with Ghost, where Ghost is like picking up, like maybe in the first one he didn't, but in this one he's like, I'm picking up a strange reading from that building over there. And he's like, what, the building of death? And he's like, yeah, you need to, in other words, Ghost is the one that kind of takes him in there. And I think it needs to be more than just the captain saying, you can go in there if you want. I think the captain has already died, and Ghost is like, look, you're going to die out here anyway.
Or the captain is separated from him, because we might want to use the captain.
Captured.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So the storm can separate them from each other.
Well, we can make it look like we think he's dead. We don't.
Yes.
No body. As they always say in soap operas, no body, no death.
Yeah, no body, no death. Habeas corpus.
Like the ground breaks free and he falls.
Yep.
And is swallowed up by a massive cloud of whatever.
Yep, and exactly.
Ghost says something like, he's got a 12% chance of surviving that. And then Lyron says, don't tell me my percentages. And that'll be our Star Wars
callback.
Because I always do something Star Wars in everything I do, some type of weird callback, or at least to something.
I've got one in Hidden Blade where, and nobody's mentioned this, and I'm so sad about it, but there's one in Hidden Blade where Louis hurt his arm, and he's like, Raoul, can you fix it? Like, can you stitch this up? And Raoul is like, tread it, Louis. I'm a swordsman, not a surgeon.
Yeah. Yep.
Which is my Star Trek callback.
Yep. Yeah, I always do something. I do a bunch of little hidden Easter eggs through everything that I do, and I almost never does anybody ever find them, but they are pretty vague.
Yeah.
One day maybe I'll do a wiki on them.
We now have Mota with our heroes.
Yes.
Okay.
We got to expand upon, the scene in there, but I think that works. I think that gives us it gives us the trio, which is what I'm looking for. And if for those of you who have listened to some of my lessons where I talk about conflict building, bringing a third party into the scene makes a whole new dynamic. And so it's really good for storytelling.
But how do we shift Mota out of them and into the cult? Or do we keep him with them then? So this no longer is true.
Where the reason why I like him in here is where I was thinking about using him, and where I think he comes into play is that he's the catalyst that changes from Ghost being able to control things on the inside to Ghost not being able to control things on the inside.
Okay.
The thing I think we're going to need to do is we're going to have to keep Ghost hidden from Mota.
So that's fine. So, Buri can follow alone up to here.
Right.
And they can have so she spots Ghost here.
Well, Buri... so they split up, and they think that they're searching for like maybe they go, well, let's see if we can find what's in here. Now that, no one's been in here forever because it's always been death. Let's see what we can find. And Moda's like, yeah, you guys go that way and I'm going to go this way. Well, I don't know. Let's stick a pin in that.
See, I feel like Mota taking off his hood here, we go into Lyron's head, right? Lyron's like, oh my God, it's the saboteur. It's the dude who wants to like sabotage everybody's mission.
Right.
Okay. But now he's afraid that Buri might also be that dude. So I feel like Lyron would initiate separating from them.
Right.
Because he's trying to run away.
Right.
Right. And he's now trying to figure out how to stop Mota. And does he also have to worry about Buri being in league with Mota?
Right. Because she's half adapted.
Yes.
So she's still tainted as far as his pure blood is concerned.
Yes.
And we can play with that prejudiceness here.
Yes.
Which is really nice because that's one of the things he's going to get over is some of his prejudice toward adapted and half adapted people. The scene that popped in my head was Ghost saying, that's the dude that we were spying on that had the bomb. And Lyron saying, I know. And Buri saying, you know what? And he's like, I know that we're safe now, or whatever the situation.
I know that we should probably split up and explore this place.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So he splits out off from them, and then Ghost finds pieces of himself and so on. And then Teacup leads Buri to him.
Actually, I'm thinking about changing this.
Okay.
We don't need Buri to know about Ghost yet.
Okay.
This was just a spot that was convenient for us. If instead of this, if Lyron goes away and learns, because this chapter's got enough of him Ghost saying, look, I want to go check this out. There's something about this. I need you to take me here. Because remember, he's going to learn, he's going to find a piece of himself here. And I think that's enough. If Lyron splits off, then the Buri chapter now frees us up to where her and Moda go a different direction. Moda being directed by his god wrestles control away from Ghost. So you have Lyron in one area, Moda in another, and this could actually be where.
How did we know that Mota's being led by his god? Does he say, like, we should go this way? I have a hunch. Or does his armband light up?
No, we just let him do it.
Okay.
I think the audience should be clever enough to be able to figure this stuff out, because then he goes and he starts pushing buttons and she's like, what are you doing? How do you even know how to do that?
Yeah.
And maybe at that point he's like, if we have already ramped up his religion and he starts typing into a console that no one has ever seen before, this is where you can say something like, if you only knew the power of the god or whatever, the power of the dark side.
We can play hard into the machine prejudice here, because Buri can say, you communicate with your god via a machine. Isn't that like because that way, when she sees Ghost, she can be like, fuck, is Mota and Lyron actually secretly in it together? Like, do they worship the same thing? Like, Right.
Well, but in here, I think this is where Mota basically wrestles control away from Ghost.
Yes.
The robot spiders start attacking again, and Mota's like, good luck, and bails on Buri, and he runs away, and she realizes, oh crap, I'm trapped. And so now she runs for her life. We go back to Lyron in scene 9. And Laron is running for his life because they've lost control. And it's a little convenient, but it's a story. Burry and Laron run into each other. They have a whatever with the spiders, and then that's when she pulls out the EMP to save them.
Mm-hmm.
And it ends with them barely making it outside.
But we still need the EMP ghost thing because we still need them telepathically linked.
To what?
We still need them telepathically linked.
Right. I'm thinking that can happen in the second half of Act 2. There's something. So we still have it pretty weak on the locals' encampment.
Okay. So he meets up with Burry and they get trapped and she pulls out the EMP. How does Ghost survive?
Right. We haven't figured that out yet.
Or does Ghost give Lyron instructions for like how to revive him afterward?
Yeah, I mean there's options there.
Do they talk about Mota at all?
I don't think there's gonna be time in this scene.
Okay, so in this
But I mean maybe where they're like maybe Ghost doesn't maybe all Ghost knows is that he's lost control. And so when they bump into each other and they're running for their lives, Laron says something like, I don't know what happened. I thought we had this. And she's like, Mota happened. He betrayed us. So that's an easy thing to happen during. So they don't have a conversation about it. They just, here's the information. Because the reader already has the information. So we don't need to give it twice. And left us to die. And then that way, when we see Mota, I think that works. So it saves Mota for the trio inside of the bunker. But
it does leave us with the Ghost problem.
Oh, you're talking about connecting it to Burry?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So but it does leave us with Ghost is now knocked out in this
maybe scene. Maybe it depends on how we resolve that, because there's other ways where it's like the armbands are shielded or whatever. I mean, there's a million different ways we could do it.
Yeah, I suppose we could skip the whole like problem, but that does feel a bit
right.
Yeah. Where we're at is Burry uses the EMP to knock out the spiders. Potentially this knocks out Ghost as well, perhaps.
Yeah, I do like taking Ghost away. And making them have to deal with life without him for a while.
So do I. I just feel like there needs to be some kind of plan for getting him back.
Or somewhere in the second part of Act 2, Laron actually, to show Laron is paying attention and is actually the hero, he figures out something that, either in another bunker, I'm calling them bunkers, but the husks or something to that effect.
Okay.
Yeah, let's just put a pin in it for now. We know it needs to be done, but
okay, so in Act 2, they follow the canister carriers and they have to deal with something that the canister carriers do, but they struggle to overcome it but it does get them into striking range to attempt to steal the canister that night.
Right.
They fail. They get caught. En route to the village, they're treated differently. She's put to work. Laron's kept apart for a special purpose. The canister is put inside this geyser type thing.
I love the way you say that.
Supercharged. It's there to be supercharged before being fed to the red-bellied beast. They take it with a crane and they put it inside this geyser.
Because in America we have an old geyser and we call them geysers.
Okay.
So
Geysers.
an old geezer is just a really old man that is grumpy and crotchety. And so every time you say they put him into a geezer, I always go, an old geezer?
I'm a foreigner. I speak
Tom-
foreigner good.
tomato.
um,
I'm not
but
sure that geyser is correct or geezer is correct.
I don't know.
I'm just saying in America we say geyser.
Geyser. The
You know,
red,
like guys are crazy.
yeah, geyser. Okay.
You guys are crazy.
So the red-bellied beast can the red-bellied beast being the husk that the village is built around, and the portion of the AI that's down here is something can make something out of purebred humans. It makes druids out of purebreds.
So it needs to be a more functioning version of the bunker from part 1, act 2A. And we need to reincorporate the spiders, but they're actually working the village and all this other stuff. So we need to, to show that that's all technology that's the same. So the village is built around one of those as well, but this one is in better shape. It's more operative. It isn't the crash destroyed. This one's obviously been parts together and scavenged from other places, and give it a really good sci-fi crash site survivor kind of feel. You know what I mean?
You know what I'm thinking? If they hear, okay, so fine, the red-bellied beast can make something out of purebred humans. What if it can make monsters out of them? Monsters that are slaved to the druid's will, right? They're slaved to like the druid's armband or whatever. Okay. But Lyron figures he can recharge Ghost if he can find another piece of Ghost inside the husk.
No, I'm following all that. Sorry, my brain was going down paths.
And then they have to. So here, where the Merc captain gets druided, and like, Lyron's
he actually gets enslaved.
Yeah, the Merc captain gets enslaved, but Lyron's like, I need to get in there and I need to find a piece of Ghost. And Burry, and he and Burry have figured out a way to communicate or to talk to each other. And Burry's like, you're just going to end up like him, like a monster slave. And then what am I going to do? And then Lyron's like, you have to go in and get my bracelet recharged.
I think we missed an opportunity. And I think this can be put into Act 1 several spots.
Okay.
What if the bracelets are just cell phone like devices?
All right.
So like instead of her deciding to go to her sister, it beeps and her sister's like, hey, I just heard the list of people that were picked for this thing and you're on it. And she's like, yeah, I was kind of hoping to tell you in person. And she says something like, you better come by and see me before you leave or whatever. So like we can establish that these things are communication devices in several different spots. We don't need Ghost to be that. Now, still want Ghost to interface with Burry for some reason, and that'll be a part of either the end of Act 2 or Act 3. Burry will need that, especially if we beef up the prejudiceness against machines, intelligent machines. And that is something we are going to have to, we haven't really threaded through there, but that it's because it's not really a plot. It's more world building, but we need to make sure that in every scene, the machines that they use are not intelligent machines, and so on and so forth. And we need to build that up in that. And then the dichotomy to that is Moda saying, humans are not as smart as what machines could be.
Yes.
They worship machines or whatever.
Yes.
And the monster should be a cyborg or a cybernetic type thing.
This monster here. Yes.
Yeah. To where he gets machine parts actually inserted into him, and then it enslaves him, and he, that's the monster that he is. Where my mind was going earlier when you were talking about that, that's fine, but we have to have that monster before now.
Where do you want that monster?
Well, there's a couple places we could do it. The one that I'm thinking is we already have a bunch of quote unquote monsters attacking the mercenaries led by Moda and crew. Mm-hmm. What if they are these half human, half machine things? And they're like, yeah, we've seen these things before. We don't know where they come from. But obviously they used to be human or whatever. But they have to be terrible. They have to be like once they end up killing it or whatever. And it could just be one big bad that they all have to deal with. And then they see Moda. Like instead of Moda and his crew, I don't know. We're going to have to play with that one a little bit because there's a couple ways we can go.
We can adjust that as we go. But okay, so right. we've seen the monsters there, and then the
what we would need though is we need an after scene. They've killed it. They're like, yeah, this is what can happen to you, kid. There's natives down here that worship machines. It's the same stupid cult that's up there. They don't understand what they're doing. Sort of that you don't know what monster you're trying to sleep with. They don't realize that they are the same. And so Laron's like, oh, I don't want to end up like that. Like it just needs to be dropped in there that it's a terrible thing. So that when it comes back, they have breadcrumbs to go back to. And for you guys listening, that's the important thing. Every time you're going to do something, and again, this all goes back to what I call that 400 foot of rope phenomenon. And you've heard me tell the story of why I call it that. You can't just bring stuff out of the blue. You can't just have like, oh, this is a new thing and whatever. It doesn't have the impact. It feels like it is contrived. It feels like you haven't done due diligence. If you're following along with us, you'll see that it's constantly oh, this is a great idea. We're really excited about this. And then 10 minutes later, it's like, okay, so we're going to scrap that idea because why would it be like this? Or how would it be like this? Or, okay, so we want to do this and we like this better, but that means that we're going to have to challenge this other part of the story and change this other thing or whatever. And I think that's the core of being a good storyteller, is to not be afraid to question your own creation and force it to answer to better situations. And I think you keep doing that and you just end up with a much better product.
So we've dropped in that hint, the motor gets turned and enslaved by the machine, same as monsters previously.
Yeah, and there's a couple ways we can do it. We can have a couple of them attack, or we can make them so badass that one is a terror. And the entire Merc team has to take it out, and several of them are killed. Because then that shows, I mean, we already know that the captain is badass because we will have shown that. And now he becomes, Borgicide.
Yeah.
And so now it's just Laron, and there is no Merc troop around it, or Laron and Burry, and there is no Merc troop around them with high-powered weapons and everything else.
Yeah.
So it just makes this big bad really big and really bad. Yes. If we just use one that wreaks havoc in that one scene.
Mota's plan is going to be to have Lyron turned into one of these machines.
Yes.
One of these cyborgs. So the Merc captain gets turned into a cyborg and enslaved and probably like put on guard duty or something.
I don't know if we need to have time.
No.
I don't know. I mean, I think, we drag the captain out, he does his thing, and then we drag, and Burry's watching from hiding, and Laron's watching from front and center, and then it's like, all right, done with that one, bring the next.
Mm.
And I think here is where Laron, there's some part of this ritual that they're using, or something that gives us access to rebooting Ghost here, and he saves himself because of that.
And Ghost saves Lyron.
Um,
Because Lyron
yes.
still needs to be saved.
Well, that's what I'm saying. But Lyron, it needs to be Lyron saving himself using Ghost, not Ghost saves Lyron. That's too much of a rescue from without.
Well, I mean, Ghost can only save Lyron because Lyron saves Ghost.
Right, that's what I mean.
Yeah.
So it needs to be handled in a way that that Lyron is finally becoming a hero. This is that stepping stone for him. So this is that next. It's not, oh look, I turned on Ghost and now I can be a passive, damsel in distress as Ghost saves me. It's and we're just gonna have to figure this out. But it's a situation where something is presented to him that he can take advantage of, that he does, that maybe he doesn't even save Ghost. Maybe he has learned something from Ghost that allows him to unshackle himself or something. And we it can get as elaborate as we want. I mean, it could be some weird, like the what was the pit that they dropped Luke into in Jabba the Hutt's palace?
The Sarlacc pit.
Yeah, Sarlacc. So it could be something like he opens up something and falls in something or whatever. I mean, we just need to get clever about it. But that's the scene that I feel like that my gut is telling me that this scene is. There's something bigger that maybe, and maybe we can go down something like the Sarlacc pit where there is something. And what I mean by that is, so the captain's already been made. If Laron does something that gets him out of the frying pan, so to speak, but he finds himself in the fire. So like the frying pan is, we're going to turn you into a cyborg. Okay, great. You did something that opened something that pulled you somewhere or dropped you somewhere or did something and has now separated you from the danger of that. But now that merc captain, is going to kill you or whatever.
Okay. So something Ghost taught Lyron helps him to open the cell before he can be dragged out.
See, I don't like that.
Okay.
I think it needs to happen. I think he needs to be dragged out and put in front of. I think this is a mini all hope is lost moment.
Sure, 100%. So he's dragged out, but I mean, does it just let him escape and then he has to run away?
Well, and that's what I mean. Yes, to an extent, but it needs to be a bigger danger. In other words, the danger that he's faced with here is being turned into a cyborg. He does something clever. He figures something out. He uses his past knowledge that he's gained through the story to do something that gets him out of that. But
okay. So how about something Ghost has taught Lyron helps him circumvent the device they put him into to turn him into a cyborg. So when it opens, he's still human and still him. And Mota is like, well, guess my cyborg is just gonna have to kill you then.
Well, there's something corrupt about him that his God rejected him.
Yes.
Destroy the heathen.
So now, Buri and Lyron flee into the red-bellied beast.
I do think there needs to be a note on the scene before it, something about Laron gets a hint that maybe Ghost isn't dead. because when they go into the red belly beast, he's got this, I think I can save Ghost, and she's like, you're yeah, that thing is dead and good riddance. And so it gives him a motivation of doing something other than just surviving, where she is like, no, we're gonna get the hell out of here.
So how about we move that conversation in here, and up here they're running, motor happened, they get trapped, hauls out an EMP, Ghost tells Lyron it's going to knock him out. Lyron tries to stop Burry,
and she does it anyway,
using it, and says his friend is gonna get killed. She says another machine worshiper, and does it anyway. Okay.
Yeah, so he doesn't survive, or at least as far as the audience is concerned.
Yeah. Then in the red-bellied beast, they
now he's
flee.
going to resent her. That's going to come up through.
Yeah. Okay, but now they flee into the red-bellied beast. Okay, because like the captain is now chasing them. And then Lyron goes, Lyron, I can save Ghost in here. He finds one of those. They find one of those devices that held a piece of Ghost's memories. Lyron, I can save Ghost in here. And then Burry, your clever machine, and then they can have this whole conversation of he's not like that, and she can be like fucking nobles, and then we just need a resolution here to that discussion. How is our boy going to convince Burry?
Well, I don't know if she needs to, or if he needs to.
Okay.
We are in a life and death cat and mouse kind of thing here, is where I see this happening. So I see this conversation happening more organically through breaks within this, like they're having an argument as they're fleeing for their life kind of thing. So both of them are obviously way more concerned with living than the argument. So the argument
does it anyway. Sense? Yeah, so Lyron does it anyway. The same way that Burry detonated the EMP.
And it needs to be a callback line.
Yeah.
Burry needs to say a specific line when she does it, and then Lyron needs to say the exact same line here.
Yeah.
I love callbacks.
Yes.
One of my favorite things to write.
So now they've fled into the red-bellied beast. They've got Ghost back. What now?
Act 2 climax is overcoming the Captain Cyborg.
Yes. They've got Ghost back. So Ghost needs to help them here.
So I'm thinking that there's some type of cave system underneath here that appears like a cave system, but what if it's actually like a subway system of an old city that used to be? Oh wait, no, this isn't. Never mind. We don't have old cities here. This isn't. I fell into the life of the people where it's like, this is Earth and there's an old city here. It was all destroyed. And oh wait, no, it's not.
But they can be a cave system.
It can still just be a cave system, right?
Yes.
So Lyron does something to save himself, but when he gets out of the transformation machine, and they're like, heretic, you've defied my god, you must now die. Burry hasn't been idle, and she has figured something out, and so she pops up. Or maybe he's backing up, and then all of a sudden the ground just disappears and he falls. And he slides to this thing and he lands in a heap. And Burry laughs at him because that's what Burry has figured out, is something about so she's gone through and found this cave system that the cultists obviously use, but for whatever reason, either it's dangerous or whatever. I mean, it's a cave system, so
did she
they
make a
probably don't.
hole for him to fall into?
Well, there's a couple. She could figure out a device that could cut a hole. She could figure out maybe they've there's like an elevator type system to bring things up and out of the cave system. I mean, we can do whatever. This is just figuring out world building.
Yeah.
But I do
Yeah.
believe that Burry has to save him after he saves himself.
Okay.
That's my point.
Mm-hmm. So they're in a cave system here, and then what?
Well, and then that's when the cyborg goes after them
Yeah.
in the cave system. So they have this natural kind of. We have to separate them from like all of the other whatever. And I kind of had this idea of like a Minotaur, the
Yeah.
Minotaur maze kind of thing. Obviously not that, but that's where my brain was going. Like they're running for their lives in this Minotaur cave as the Minotaur is trying to hunt them down and kill them. Obviously, it's a cyborg, not a Minotaur, but
okay. And then they find one of those devices that held the pieces of ghost memory. You know, for whatever reason, it's down here. And I mean, it could like they could run through a corridor, like they're running through a cave, and then the cave turns into like a steel corridor. You know, there's like an embedded piece down there.
Right. And there's a door maybe, and he's like, wait.
Yeah.
And then of course that would have to call back to the same door that led to the, and this gives him a reprieve to escape the hunt for temporarily. This is where we actually do revive Ghost, as in like scene 8 or whatever.
Okay, so we revive Ghost here in scene 8.
So yeah, I think scene 7 is mostly, just to give it a 10,000 foot name. Most of that stuff, that conversation is going to happen in scene 8. I think. Go up and make sure I'm looking at the scenes correctly. Yeah. So most of this from like later on, I can save Ghost here and all that was probably going to be in scene 8 when they're in this second thing. And in this scene 7, it's going to be the mad flight from Cyborg. Cyborg's trying to kill them. They're trying to survive in the caves. They figure out, something exciting happens here. This is just a chase scene. I is what I'm seeing it as, a chase and survival and escapes. And, they get cornered and they might fight it a little bit, trip it up or whatever, and get away and whatever. But this is an action scene is what I'm seeing this as.
Okay. So here in saving Ghost, do we still link them here? Do we want them? No,
because so we know that the plan is going to go sideways here with the thing, and that's what it's going to be. Remember, we didn't know what it was. So what I think, at least right now, and again, all this stuff is subject to change, but at least right now, what I'm thinking is, Lyron says, we can defeat this thing, but you need to interface with Ghost. And she's like, not a chance in hell is that happening. And so she's like, this is what we're going to do instead. And that's the plan they go with, and that's the plan that fails. And then the overcome is, you have to take this pill. And she's like, fine. And then that opens her up a little bit, and they not only do they are they able to defeat the cyborg captain, it opens up Burry to not or to understanding that her prejudice is not exactly what she thought it was.
Okay, so here in scene 8, we have the conversation. Lyron does the revival of Ghost. Okay, so what happens in scene 9?
Scene 9 would be them coming up with a plan to defeat the cyborg, because they're still trapped.
Yeah.
And it's only a matter of time. We have a ticking time clock here. Okay,
so Ghost comes up with a plan to defeat the cyborg, but it means Burry interfacing with them.
Right. She says no way, comes up with her own plan. and basically browbeats them into doing that. They initiate that plan and it fails. And it's going to, that's going to be the hook at the end of scene 9 is them. And this would be a Laron chapter.
Yes. So Lyron is caught by the beast, right? Because the thing is, if Lyron is caught by the cyborg, like Buri's plan has just put him in danger.
Mm-hmm.
She's got to get him out of it.
Mm-hmm. So she has to.
She makes
that decision. Yep. And that's where it ends. Or maybe that, it ends with Lyron being caught. And then, this is where she realizes that Ghost's plan is the only option.
And he throws his bracelet at her.
Maybe. Yeah. There could be other ways to do it too.
Yeah, but something like that.
Right. Change beast to cyborg because that's bugging me.
Sorry.
Since we had same paragraph. Yeah, the thing I don't like about throwing the bracelet is I think what we had talked about when we were world building this was that they're not removable.
But he could throw a chip.
Bones.
Yeah.
Or it could just also be they found a panel that he's like, yes, if you connect this, it'll just like, because that would be this. Laron's going to have to interface with it somehow when he gets Ghost into him. When Ghost is like, look, I can interface, just stick your bracelet into this. Well, they're going to find another one of those probably. And so that's probably what it's going to be. And so she's going to have to go back to it, get it, and then come back and save him. When she realizes that she can't do it the way she wanted to do it. She can't have her cake and eat it too.
So they can interface with Ghost in the same place they found his memory.
Right.
Yeah.
Because that's how he would link into it to turn it on to begin with.
Yeah.
He's like, hey, wait. This is one of those things.
Yeah.
So, yeah. I mean, there's still a lot to work out.
Yeah.
But this now gives us, because what they're going to also learn through here is, and we'll have to, as we go through Act 3, we'll be going back through and adding this stuff.
Of course.
But this is for not only for you and me, but it's also for those listening and kind of how I think. I know that the ultimate goal is to retrieve the Jiren canister. So once we overcome this and they realize whatever they've learned in this last little bit is going to make them go, we can actually now use this to get the
Jiren. And ultimately they do need to defeat the red-bellied beast.
You know what? I actually like that better.
Yeah.
I like that better. So what we're going to need to do and then it's going to create some changes. Scene 6.
Mm-hmm.
When Laron goes in to this machine, this is when he's face to face with the true villain of the story. This is the atonement of the father moment.
Okay.
When we talk about the hero's journey. So scene 6 is the atonement of the father. So to be turned into a cyborg, you go in front of the man and we think it's the AI, the actual AI. I also just realized that we are going to have to implement Ghost telling Laron bits of the truth. Where Laron does believe this is Earth, we are going to have to interject Ghost saying, I don't think this is actually Earth, or maybe when Moda says something about it or whatever. Ghost doesn't know back then, but we've got to start putting in those doubts for this to pay off. So keep that in mind, that we are going to have to call into question the religion and the lore of this world.
Yeah.
Because this is where I think we learn what happens. So in other words, when Laron goes in, I think this is how Laron defeats temporarily, enough to save himself from this, is the AI is like, you were the one that interfaced with, the true name of Ghost, whatever. You don't understand. Oh man, what if this isn't a test to turn you into a cyborg? What if this is the last ditch effort for the AI to try to win you to its side. Okay. So in other words, the mercenary captain goes in and comes out of Cyborg, and that's all we know. But when Laron goes in, all right, so when Moda captures them and they separate Laron, he said, "You're a pureblood. You can still stand before my God." Something cryptic and religious sounding. So something like, why is Laron, why are you keeping him there? And he's like, oh, he's a pureblood. He has the ability to stand before my God and be given a choice. It's like, what choice? That is not for us to know. So whatever happens to whatever the AI needs is he needs them. He can only do it to purebloods. Half adapted and adapted are already too far. And maybe what that choice is. So in scene 6, when Laron steps into the room and he meets the AI, and the AI does tell him this is where he learns the truth. That's why I said we have to plant it before, because here's where he learns the truth. This is not Earth. We are from another planet, or this is another planet. We are from Earth, but this is not it. I can make you the perfect person to live here. Maybe that's what it was, is the AI, the one thing the AI has never been able to do, or maybe that's how Ghost in his human form beat the AI, was the last thing he put in was, you can no longer compel humans to do this.
They must choose.
They must choose. Now, the rub is, if you choose not to do it, the AI can do whatever the frick it wants to you, and it turns you into a cyborg. If you won't do it willingly, I can't make you do that step, but I can infuse you with a bunch of equipment and turn you into a mindless slave. There's no rules against not doing that. I can't do this one thing to you, but I can do this other thing. I can do anything else. I could kill you. I can do whatever. Like the only thing the programming was is that I couldn't take you down whatever this perfect plan of mine was, as the AI, whatever my perfect plan was. And so the adapted isn't an AI generated thing. It's actually just a natural evolution thing dealing with this planet.
Okay. So, what happens to our boy in there?
Well, he chooses not to, and then whatever's in there, because of his interaction with Ghost, he gets away from being turned into a cyborg too. Just like we had said, he steps out and he's still human. So all that's the same. It's just what happens inside. This is where because what we need to do in the second half of Act 2 is you have to learn what the actual big bad of the story is at some point. We talk about when I'm teaching, I talk about the Matrix. This is where Neo, the second half of Act 2 happens after Morpheus is kidnapped, and he decides, because the Act 2, the mid Act 2 climax is him saying, I'm gonna go back and save Morpheus. I'm gonna die doing it because I'm not the one, but I'm not gonna let Morpheus die for me because I'm not the one. So that's the redirect, and we have that with we're still going to get the Jurin. So the Jurin in this case would be an allegory for Morpheus. We're going to go get Morpheus, but Morpheus isn't the real thing they need. And then through that is when he learns, oh crap, there is more to this story. There is a bigger bad, and that's where you get the thing where, and it's not with Neo, because again, it's a movie, so it doesn't have a specific POV like you have to do in novels. But it happens with Morpheus, where Agent Smith is, rubbing the sweat off his brow and is like, "You humans are a virus, and we're gonna, we're gonna finally break you, and I'm gonna get out of here."
Is the kind of liquid metal Terminator thing, right? So what if it can't do that, but it can turn you into a cyborg? Ghost stopped it doing that.
Whatever the AI wanted to do. And every
person has to have a choice.
Right.
Yes.
And it was bad, whatever it was.
Yes.
It was probably better than being a mindless
the
cyborg,
AI,
but that came
AI could
after
also
Ghost
have
was dead.
tinkered with its own internal, programming,
Right.
to the point where it could do this half step, but it can't do the full thing.
Right. And then the adapted and the half adept are really like being just a normal evolution. We've been on this planet for 1,000 years, and it's just, well, so only, if I remember correctly from your world building, only adapted and half adapted can mess with Jurin, right?
Purebred humans
in a magical
can,
sense,
but not in the same way at all.
Purebred humans can't.
They can't make items or anything like that. They can just use Jurin a little bit. And every time they do it, they move a little closer to becoming a half adapted, because they're basically absorbing what amounts to contaminated Jurin into their blood.
I'd like to revisit that.
Okay.
Not saying I just want to chase a rabbit. And the rabbit would be, if we're looking at this more as a natural form of evolution because of the weirdness of this planet, there's a second component that we'd have to create. Jurin is money.
Yeah.
Period.
It's also the nanobots.
Well, but I'm saying,
yeah,
in this rabbit chasing, Jurin is money. And yes, it's nanobots, and so it can
fuel their technology, which is the important part here.
Right. But it can't do anything internally to people.
Okay.
And so this third component that I'm thinking of is something that was natural on this planet.
Okay.
That if you mix it with Jurin, you can do some amazing things. But that's the thing that then puts you closer and closer and closer and closer and closer to it.
Yes.
So
you have to be half adapted for that?
No, it's what takes you. You can be human. Okay. And so when they first got here, a
lot of them tried it, and it became, yes, I got you.
And they started moving down this path. But there has to be something negative about it. So right now we don't have anything negative about it. If we go down this path, there has to be a reason why a lot of humans went, oh yeah, no, we're not going to do that. It has to do something negative.
It ties nicely into the geyser, because the geyser could be supercharging that Jurin.
It also ties into this disease. Maybe that's the side effect, that some people can go all the way to adapted and have nothing wrong with it, but some people get this weird disease that kills them.
And you could make it a 50-50 toss-up.
And that would make it to where people would be less willing to do this.
And that's why the half adapted are so valuable, because the half adapted can, through using crafting, they can make this safe to consume, giving everybody access to magic through their craft.
Crafting means that it doesn't do damage to you.
Yes.
Because you're not using it internally.
Exactly. So even if you eat a baked good, right, it's still like it's been produced and infused, and it's now just adding strength and whatever to you. But that might be the reason why Buri's side effects are also so poorly received by everybody, right? Because it's not just that you throw up. They're like, has she done this properly? Have I been infected?
Right. Yeah. So
especially with her sister sick with this disease.
So that's why I said we need to revisit this, because there has to be something. I'm going with drugs. I'm going with some type of addicted thing. It does something to you if you use too much of it. And using too much of it is what slides you. Like, there's a safe level. Now, unfortunately, they didn't figure it out until people were, so that opened up are they born half adapted? Because that's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking it changes your DNA. And so once you have become half adapted, you are born that way. You're born a half adapted.
Yeah. And your kids are half adapted. And
you can slide into being adapted during your life, but you can't go back.
No, you can't.
So what that means is that makes the purebreds even more special and even more prejudiced and hoity-toity and separate from, because you can't come back to me. My
Yeah.
bloodline, it's sort of like the whole Harry Potter
Yeah.
muggle thing. Like, you're a mudblood. Like, there's
Mm.
nothing you can do about that. You were born half wizard, half
Mm.
mortal. There's no going back for you. And so that really ramps that aspect up, that the humans who have been purebred will only breed with other purebreds because of the necessity to keep their bloodlines clean of this stuff. And so,
and the fully adapted, while they can't craft this weird item, right, they can pretty much use the planet's radiation to make themselves stronger, and so, like, you know, they can really live on this planet.
But it has to, like I said, there has to be some negative to it. There has to be some reason it keeps the society from moving that way, especially half adapted. If they are this valuable, there has to be negatives to it. And I think the negative is the fully adapted.
Yes.
Either you have some weird tick, you have some craziness to you, you're just not stable. There's something about once you, because I'm born half adapted.
Maybe a short life. Maybe a fully adapted have a short life.
So that's cool, but it doesn't impact the story. So I'm looking for something that would be immediate, because that's more abstract than what the story, it doesn't affect the reader. So here's what I'm thinking. So you're born half adapted because your parents or their parents or their parents or whatever did this thing. So whatever the thing is that moves you from half adapted to fully adapted.
Wait. Okay, so this planet, so if you're fully adapted, what does that mean? It means that your internals have been replaced with this planet's stuff, right? You bleed white. You probably have an internal combustion engine inside you, or the equivalent of. Okay, but it's a very unstable mutation. And it's one that's probably been kind of forced on you, because very few fully adapted breed with each other. Okay, because they haven't yet found a pairing that figures out the mechanics of the heat. You can literally, fully adapted can explode into flames at kind of any moment.
So it needs to be a sliding scale then. So you're born half adapted, but if you continue to use too much Jiren plus compound X, so like Moda isn't fully adapted, he's just so far down that path, because otherwise they wouldn't accept them into society. What if becoming fully adapted, you're too dangerous to be around, and so you're expelled from society, you're kicked out into the world, and the AI can no longer use these people because they're not compatible
with its programming and its
with its technology. So that's why purebred humans are so valuable to the AI, because even half adapted can just be workers. Like, I need you because I'm going to use you because I need labor and I need people, because I'm an AI. I can't go out and physically do stuff because they don't have a factory to build little robot spiders or whatever. The robot spiders that exist are the only ones that exist, probably. It's this balance for half adapted because when you use Jiren, it's addictive and it makes you want to use more, and you have to have that self-control or you'll keep sliding further and further and further. If you just use this much, you can stay here pretty much your whole life. And so what her sister did, because we've made her sister a little too angelic, her sister became addicted to it and OD'd on it, and it slid her. And so it's not that she has an illness. She is literally just so far down the line that if she continues down that path, she's going to become fully adapted and kicked out of society.
So she's actually in a drug, like a dry out,
right?
A rehabilitation,
right? To try and stop her from,
gotcha,
and try to purge some of it out of her to save her some of it.
Yeah, I like it.
And so why do we not use this stuff? Why do humans not use it? Because if we use it at all, we'll become half adapted, and screw that, because I don't want to even go close to it. And then why half adapted can't just go nuts with it is it'll eventually kill you.
Because you'll basically immolate, because they haven't, like, nobody's yet figured out that thing.
One person has.
Oh yeah?
The AI.
Yes, the AI.
So the reason why the cult exists is because the AI can save them. The AI can make them stable or whatever. So that's why they worship it as a god. Because
because if you find the AI on the planet as a fully adapted, it will help you stabilize. And it'll stabilize your internal so you don't explode.
So that's what they're doing with Bury, is you will now work for us
so much that you become fully adapted, and then will stabilize
you. Only if you convert to our religion.
Yes.
If you stay a heretic, then we're just going to use you as labor until you die. You have to buy into the religion. And then you get to ascend. And now I really want to find a scene to where we can have Mota do that.
Well, right here. So Bury, Mota tries to convince her to go all out adapted, promises the god can stabilize her and she can live down here.
All right. Here's another thing. So Mota is fully adapted and stabilized. However, he does something to hide that, which allows him to be in this society.
Yes.
So whatever it is, so we already had like the lines on their face or whatever that's visible there.
The fully adapted are blue and white, right? Because of they bleed white, so they've got the blue and white stuff. So how about Mota? Like the AI has given him whatever, some kind of cloaking device or whatever.
I was going to go a little bit more low tech, and he just wears makeup. Or a disguise of some type that will get washed off.
Because the thing is, like, he can just wear it on his face and hands, right?
Right.
And he can wear like half adapted kind of coloring, like the kind of red and black.
So, and that's easy to work into the story. So when Laron is spying on him, he sees Mota in his true form and watches that happens while he's putting on his makeup to go out to get the bomb.
Yes.
And then we see Mota in Bury's scene with the makeup, but we know it's the same person because we've saw that. And then when Mota betrays them in the first beast, during that betrayal, the disguise comes off and he is revealed to Bury as fully adapted. And so that when she sees him down there, she's like, yeah, that, he was lying the whole time. And then when they get captured, that's when she's like, I don't understand why you would do that. You're going to die. And he's like, no, this is where you don't understand. Yeah. And you could be like this too.
So his disguise comes off here.
When he betrays them.
Yeah. So when he says like, good luck, and he bails just before that. Yeah.
So whatever he does to wrest control away from Ghost also happens to wash away the disguise, removes the disguise, whatever. And it doesn't have to be makeup. It could be a hologram. It could be whatever. Just we'll figure that out later. But I'm just saying that's where it drops. And so from here on out, now we just see him as fully adapted. And we've already set up the stage that fully adapted because her sister's heading down that path. And so we have a perfect opportunity there to show why that's bad, so on and so forth.
You know what's amazing right here? Right here is now we have a serious temptation for Bury.
Yeah.
Because Mota is promising salvation and she has a dying sister.
Yeah. I didn't think about that. But yeah, he can actually say, your sister's in the clinic, isn't she?
He doesn't even have to know about the sister. Like Bury can, like, but it can come from him.
I think he should know about her, and he should use her as the carrot. This is the temptation: betray your people, and I save your sister. So one of the things we didn't have in this second half of Act 2 is what is Bury's conflict. The whole time we've just been leaning on, well, she's got to save Laron, but that's pretty damn weak. Now we have an existential crisis of her going on. where now she's now got to decide between saving Laron and getting away versus just throwing her lot in with these people and saving her sister. That's going to need to be explored. We're going to need some time on that one, but that's a story.
That is a story. That's a big ass choice.
Yeah. And so that when she does save Laron at the end, obviously that's her making the decision of that. But that's her conflict in the second half, is she's given the opportunity to choose between continuing doing what she was doing and life as usual, or and obviously saving Laron, or letting Laron go and saving her sister.
We're going to need to think about why she doesn't choose that.
I think that's a pretty easy decision. It's a radical changing of your life. You come down to the planet, you live amongst these people, it's going to be weird down here, much different.
But it's her sister, man.
And you have to worship a cult.
Yes. But we need to give her some hope that she can get her sister on the straight and narrow then.
Well, some people,
what I'm saying? Like,
yeah, people survive. That's why she's in the clinic. It isn't a place to go to die. It's a place to go to get healed. It just costs money.
So if she gets the Durin, she can keep her sister safe.
Right. She can bring her sister back from the OD.
Yeah.
And bring her back, because that's what it's going to have to be. You're going to have to be able to come back from it too. Yes. You can continue going too far, and if you don't take any help, if you just throw it, you eventually become fully adapted, and now you're too dangerous, and we're going to get rid of you, and you're going to die. Everyone, people have died up there. They burst into flames and cause damage, which is why they just go ahead and expel them, or maybe even the society, because we do have the society more like industrial age England, where human life really had no value. Maybe it's like, oh, well, the only thing we can do is give you a peaceful death, and so we inject you with we just kill you. If we can't save you, then the law is we don't expel you from society.
There's this underground that smuggles people like fully adapted down to the planet.
Yeah, the cult.
Yeah,
because they want to, because that now becomes an easy decision. So I come to you and it's like, okay, so tomorrow you're being executed by the state, or I can get you out and you can worship my God and he will save your life. So that's an easier decision than letting Laron die or letting your sister go through the normal curing process, which obviously her sister's committed to trying to
cure.
Right. I think this all fits and fits really, really well.
All right. And I think that is a really good note on which to end this podcast.
You guys want to find out what we actually finally settle on, and as we do the writing, things change and everything like that, this is probably going to be the last podcast we're going to do on the plotting of this. Hopefully it was educational to you guys. Hopefully you see how digging can really, really, really enhance your story. And hopefully you'll join us. We're going to drop this at Comic-Con San Diego 2023. So in July, we're going to have copies of it. We'll obviously make it available for sale everywhere at that point as well.
We will probably crit one or two of our chapters live for the podcast.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
So the earlier chapters where we'll actually go through the implementation and so on.
Right. Yeah, definitely. But hopefully this was educational for you guys. Just watching it live on kind of how, and this was new to well, I guess before we leave, so you're not a plotter. I dragged you into this kicking and screaming. What are your thoughts?
So I learned a lot in doing this, and I applied some of it to book 3 of Sangwheel Chronicles. So I actually did write an outline for book 3, but I wrote it after I had written a whole chunk of chapters. Because the thing that I still struggle most with as a pantser is figuring out where the plot is going without having written the characters. because the way I get to know the characters is by writing their interaction with the other characters. And until I've done that, I really wrestle with the plot. So I think if you're a pantser, but you want this kind of level of outlining and plotting and putting the thing together, I think the key is to write some scenes, whether they throw away, whatever, don't worry too much about them, but write some scenes where the characters interact with each other so that you can nail down their personalities in your head, because that's how I nail down my characters, is by writing them. And once I had that, I could then go and do this kind of level of plotting. But without that, I really struggled to nail down the personalities. And the plot was very dry.
I do that. That's my side of the pantsing. So like if in the last podcast that we did, when we were going through Act 1, one of the things that I brought up was it's rubbing me wrong the way Laron's character is, because so I'm already writing these scenes in my head as I'm plotting these out. So I'm going, wait a minute now, if I'm going to write a character who is this subservient to a guy that's this just heavy-handed and mean and spiteful, then the character is going to come off as one way that I don't want them to be. That's not the character that I want to write. And so I am doing what you're talking about. I'm just doing it. I'm actually pantsing that side of it, where I'm just doing little things in my head. But one of the things that I do talk about in my character development class is to write the backstory pieces that are not going to be in the novel. So if you know, like if I was doing this as an example for Laron, I would probably come up with a scene where the father finally loses it and finally unburdens himself on the child, which is a horrible thing to do. But again, this is storytelling and horrible things happen. So maybe when Laron was 10 or 11 or 12, there's a moment where he did something that caused the father to be so furious that he finally is just like, I have blamed you for your mother's death for 10 years. You are a piece of crap. You are the one that took her from me. It's your fault, and so on and so forth. And I would write that scene. Now that scene's never going to make it to the novel, but it would let me live Laron's pain and understand this pivotal moment in his life of why he was created that way. And I still may do that. I don't do that as much anymore. I mean, I've been professionally writing now for 20 years. So you get better and you shorthand things as you go through. But back in the beginning of my career, that is what I did. And that's why I still recommend it to people. So that's what you're doing. You're just writing those scenes. I used to do them as well. I just did their backstory pieces. I didn't write scenes from the story, but I did write those, like, oh, Batman he calls himself Batman because he actually thinks bats are the most terrifying thing, because when he was a child, he fell into a well and was attacked by bats. Well, I'd write that scene. I wouldn't just say that. I would literally write the scene so I could learn that character. So yeah, that's probably something we should have done. But again, we're trying to fast track this to make sure that we have the completed novel here in 6 months. That may sound like a long time, but it really, really is not a long time.
I think for me, what will probably work is writing like at least a few chapters in a pantsy style so that I can get a grip on where my characters are at, and then plotting, just so that I can get that kind of sense.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
But anyway.
All right.
So on that note, we will see you soon for a different type of podcast from this one. And we'll be finishing our plotting offline.
Bye.